has started. Now I'm going to see if everybody accepts the stream.
Wonderful.
Okay. Twitch has accepted the stream. YouTube has accepted the stream. And Facebook has accepted the stream. Now they can give me the link. And I have to send it to somebody?
Well, you have to send it for one, is to put it on the Western New York Peace Center website.
And who else?
And
I was going to take it off their Facebook page. So they put it on a website, not your Facebook?
Okay. I hear what you're saying.
It'll be on the Facebook page.
Okay. And then I can just share it from their main page.
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting the link and then I'll put it on the Peace Center.
Okay. Great.
Copy link.
Great.
My background light is better now.
No, your background light is fine.
Remember last time we did this and I was like, it was so dark. I was in my house.
Well, that's how we learned. It's like, oh, yeah, now what do I need to do,
Much better lighting in this house.
It is officially posted on the Peace Center Facebook page.
Wonderful.
We're live.
Okay, so we're ready to really start whenever you're ready to start.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just restart the timer. When the timer says on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Thanks.
All right.
I don't see it on, oh, yep, there it is. Okay. I can't get to it though.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future, also the home of our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thank you, Richard. So we also thank our good friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, coming out of Buffalo State University. We thank you, Buff State and WBNY. We're grateful. And when I think of gratitude, I do think of our Indigenous friends, and in fact, Black, Indigenous, and people of color really are all oppressed peoples who have really undergone such hardships, who already have learned that no matter what kind of oppression or hardship, the importance of gratitude and thankfulness, no matter what, is going wrong, for the so many things that are there that are our joys and our life itself. So we think of first of all, we're on stolen land that was stolen from the Onondaga or Seneca, which is one of the nations of the Haudenosaunee. And so that land was taken through trickery and violence. And in spite of all of that, they still start every event with thankfulness and with a Gnonyo, a Thanksgiving address, which basically thanks all the people who made the thing possible, the gathering possible. Thanks Mother Earth for giving us everything we need for a good life here on this planet. And thanks for the living waters. Mini Wachoni, water is life. Makes all the difference in our lives to our very existence. The water, the wonderful plants of all kinds, especially the trees, so vital to, again, our very existence, to all the wonderful creatures, animals, and insects, fish, everything, the swimming, crawling, four-legged and flying creatures that give us so much, to the all of the things in the sky world, Brother Sun, Grandmother Moon, all of the creation of the sky world. And then, of course, to the Creator and to the love that animates it all. And then they say Yahweh, which is all, gratitude to the Creator. And then the people say Nyo. So Yahweh.
Nyo.
Nyo.
Thank you. And I would say Ashe also.
Ashe.
Be so. It be so, all of it.
So,
So it's a very important topic. We're returning to this important topic. We did a show on this not too long ago about school suspension. So it's stop school suspensions to stop the school to prison pipeline and just to improve everything for all of our children, and they are all our children. So I'm very grateful. We have, I'll just go around, we have Samantha White. Hi, Sam.
Hi, everybody. I'm Attorney Sam White with the Western New York Law Center. I launched the School Discipline Project about 3 years ago now. We've helped hundreds of students in the city of Buffalo and surrounding impacted school districts like Sweet Home, Cheektowaga, Lackawanna, Niagara Falls. We get around.
Well, you certainly do in all kinds of ways. I'm always happy to see you, and I'm lucky enough to see you quite a bit. So I want to say you're doing so much important work, and the project is so critical. I mean, the school discipline project is what you call it, because discipline is what that very word of disciple is in there. It's about learning, teaching, and so it's not about punishment. So we'll get into all of that.
Yeah.
So, and you get into it so beautifully. So we're very grateful for you joining us and for all the work you do on this topic. And also Carlanda Meadors. Carlanda, we go back so far. I thought, I don't have why not? What happened to your telephone? And of course, it's the same one that I've had for
same number. 17
years, I think.
Yes, I've had that number for almost 20-something years. When Stop the Violence first started, I've had that number. But
right. Well, when we did Peace Jam together in the way back when. So you're still doing very similar work, which so am I. But I want to especially hold up the HEAT program.
Thank you. I'm the program coordinator for the Buffalo Heat program under the auspices of Back to Basics Ministries and Buffalo Peacemakers. I'm also the community liaison for Most Valuable Parents, MVP, which we also work in the schools with the parents through Buffalo Public Schools to kids that, might be having issues with suspensions and truancy, and definitely have worked close with Samantha as one of our advocates for. I call her or I'll give the student and say, hey, have your mom call Samantha. So we've been working closely with her as a resource, actually one of the best resources for making sure that the schools are following the school code of conduct and parents and students get the opportunity to exercise their rights. So I've been able to do that through Most Valuable Parents. And I'm just happy to be here to, for the opportunity, Vicki. Like you said, we go way, way back, like babies and pacifiers with Peace Jammers and the Peace Center and Stop the Violence Coalition, and just being hands-on doing advocacy and spreading the message of peace and love hands-on in the inner city and the community. So I'm happy and honored to be here, especially with a topic that's so dear and close to my heart, being that I work with at least 50 young people every day in the HEAT program.
Well, I'm telling you, I know you both in so many different areas, and I know that you work in all kinds of, so I could start talking about all kinds of other things that we're going to do together, but I won't, because we're going to keep on with this. We're not going to, there's Kwanzaa and there's all kinds of social action projects and different groups. And so we're all in this together. And this is a very vital topic. It's very dear to my heart because it's so contrary to everything we know about what works. So school suspensions are just, it's a failure on the face of it. And it doesn't mean it's never the best alternative, but it's rarely to never. So I'm just going to say, before we do, because when we start to really dig into that we like to go around with the thing about values. What are the values when you think about school? Let's put it this way. When you think about school discipline in the school, what are the values that you think of. So we'll just go around in circles. So we'll go to, actually go to Sam and then to Carlanda, and we'll just go like that. So Sam?
Yeah, so when I look at school discipline, I want to see equity. I want to see justice. I want to see dignity. I want people to feel that, whatever happens with the outcome, they got a fair shake.
Right. All of that is so critical. And it's true in every venue, but it's especially true in school, and especially where kids are, this is where they're learning how the world is going to work. And so when they, see that it isn't work. Anyway, so Carlanda, what are some values that you think of?
When it comes to school discipline for values, I would like to see resolve. I would like to see peace. I would like to see clear communication of both sides, effective listening. So I think when two students have a disagreement, I think it's very important to hear both sides.
Right.
And they each have their voice to explain what happened, why it happened, how it happened, the who, what, where, and why. So
Right.
that way you gain a fair understanding from both parties, as well as any other witnesses to the event. So I think all voices should be heard, and then there should be, individually, and then there should be a meetup, and then there should be a resolution, because this way we teach kids that things that can be said or actions can be resolved. I mean, we're human, we make mistakes, people have issues, but I want to see resolve. I want to see respect and resolution. That's the main thing. I think of suspension. I believe in discipline, but I believe in structured discipline. I still think the discipline has to have some sort of resolve, and I don't feel like we're getting that.
Absolutely. So all of those are so important too. Both of you, the values that you mentioned, that are key to really a healthy functioning society or community group of any kind. I'm going to say, I always think of the Dr. King quote and truth and love. So the truth of what happened, and then the love that that animates it all, that animates our actions, the hurt, love, and disconnection that sometimes animates some of the bad acts that happen. Understanding where the hurt came from, what happened, how to, remedy what happened. So I think of peaceful conflict resolution and all the principles that are used, like communication and cooperation, or really digging in to what happened and how. I love the restorative justice, where it's just simply thinking, what happened, what was the damage, the simple three things. What was the damage?
Why?
What happened? What was the damage done? And then how can the damage be repaired? Just those questions. And there can be damage on both sides, which is very likely to. And then there's the whole community too. So I think of those values as well. And also that positive discipline is about learning. So what are you teaching? And so you have to learn. It's not, don't hit your sister, WAP. We have to be being the change while we're doing it. So that means listening, respecting, and all those things, all the wonderful things that you both said, have to be within our remedy.
And not being so dismissive. I mean, a lot of times, I feel like the suspension policies that's in place are punitive. And this is why we say it's the prison to pipeline, because it disengages the students, but most of the time they never bring them back to reconnect, to resolve it. They just take them out. Security grabs this one and takes them here. Security grabs this person and takes them there. And then they might talk to the students individually. Sometimes maybe the principal and the staff is not available to. So they're just in the security office, call your parent, and you leave. And you might get a letter for 45 days. And now, what do you think? There's no resolve. Even most of the time, the parents don't even know until they get the letter. So this is why kids will meet up and fight. Or they'll go on social media and it continues, and now they're out of school and they're upset, and they still have friends in school, so they're telling their friends, and now the friends is going at it with the other person's friends, and then they're going at, and then it's just another fight, and then they're put out, and then after the suspension is up, they all just come back. There's still no resolve. Like we are teaching our kids with this policy that you can have a disagreement, you can have an altercation with someone, you can fall out and then just dismiss it and then handle it yourself without communicating, which means they handle it most of the time in a violent or verbally abusive manner. When I went to school, and I'm sure when you guys went to school, no, we had to sit in the principal's office until our parents came there, and I was more fear what the whooping my mother was going to give me than, of course, putting my hands on another person. So, but you had to sit and you had to wait and you had to discuss your action, why it happened, who was involved, and what are we going to do from here? And there was a resolve, and you had to make up. Whether you liked it or not, you had to make up. And your parents came in with the resolve and help to hold their child accountable, not come in to fight and get into it with security, the teachers, or the kids. And this is where we have lost that part of it. And so then you have the peacemakers. We are the ones that have to step in. MVP, we're the ones that have to step in, and other frontline organizations to do the resolve, when really it should be on the school to do that with the students.
So let us go to the thing of actually doing suspensions, and what does that, what are the problems inherent? So you were really alluding to that. What are those, what is the process, and how the process doesn't match up with any effective peaceful conflict resolution or restorative justice or transformative justice practice. Right. Doesn't line up.
I'll let the experts Samantha speak on that.
Yeah, so Sam, if you would, what would you say for the problems inherent in the whole idea of suspension?
So as we dig into suspensions in the school to prison pipeline, we see that this school discipline system isn't evidence-based. They didn't do sociological studies and say, oh, if you push Johnny, 3 days is going to resolve this problem. There's no studies. There's no scientific backing for that. Really, it's more about reaction of the administration, reaction of the adults involved, and even sometimes the personal feelings that the administrators may have towards a student that, they've encountered multiple times because they haven't resolved underlying issues. Sometimes, a child is dealing with situations at home that need supports rather than exclusion. Excluding a child from school may be simply taking away the consistency and the safest environment that they have, maybe 2 meals a day that they, receive 5 days per week, maybe even access to bringing some food home so they're not hungry at night. As we're going into these colder months, we know that families are struggling here in Buffalo locally. You may be taking warmth away from a child by excluding them from school. Ultimately, pushing kids out doesn't resolve the issues.
Right.
You have to be there in person. And it also creates a feeling of distrust between students and administrators. We need to build relationships based on trust and support, and that will change the culture of the entire schooling system here in Buffalo, and that will change outcomes on the east side, on the west side, and for all the communities.
Thank you so much.
Totally agree.
And so which really is very, very much, and so do you want to add something to what you said already, Carlanda, about how suspensions, the inherent problems in that whole idea of that as a disciplinary?
Like I said, it just teaches kids to be dismissive. It teaches them that how not to effectively handle the problem. I think a lot of times it also subconsciously tells the student that the teachers and the staff really just don't care about me. Because I've learned from when I was a peacemaker working in Riverside, if I genuinely care about you, first I want to, calm down and make sure, you're safe and you good. That was the first thing. Like, what, come on, what's the matter? Like being concerned about why this person is so upset. Why do they feel so angry to get to the, as Christ would say, the immediate need, right? And then once you find out what that is, then it's like, okay, I listen. I asked them a question. I listened so I could gain understanding, so I could put myself in your shoes to see why are you this upset about whatever happened. And a lot of times, like she said, a lot of kids have issues stemming from home. And that's just the reality. They have real life issues going on at home, and then they're coming to school. And I'm not even going to get on the conversation that a lot of them are on prescribed medicine that causes them to have these up and down mood swings and get all riled up and upset. We're not going to go on a conversation of kids who have had sexual trauma, and so now when somebody or security gets in a space and you're a female and a man grabs and touches you, it triggers you to then you're explosive. Like, these are things that are going on with our youth. We have kids that are in gangs, and so they come to school, and some of them, it should be a safe place. School is supposed to be a learning environment and a safe space, not at any given moment someone can, spaz out, lead to a fight like we're in a psych ward. That's just not okay. And so when a child doesn't feel like you genuinely concerned about them, well, then they're not concerned about their environment when they do get upset, when they are triggered, because, a lot of times they might do it for attention. So I think we're teaching subconsciously that we're not really concerned. We're just going to put you out and dismiss you. And then whatever happens. And the other thing is the length of time. I mean, I have kids, and I'm a peacemaker, so obviously I'm always speaking from the sense of a fight or physical altercation, because that's my lane and what we deal with. But I have students that get suspended because they have their phone on them, and I understand why. I'm okay with the phone policy, but if you're picking up your siblings off the bus because your parents can't because they're at work, well, that might be why. If you have a medical emergency or something going on and your grandmother's in a hospital, that might be why. Or it could be as simple as the teacher, you're sick, you don't feel good, and you like this in class, and teacher said, put your head up, and you don't. And the teacher said, I said, put your head up and get smart. And you're like, hey, I don't feel good. Don't talk back to me. You know what? Get out. And then, they go out, they hit their hand on I didn't even do nothing, or it's an argument back and forth. And now the teacher is saying the kid is being disrespectful. They were hollering. They punched the locker. Now they get 3 to 5 days. What?
Or
3 to 5
longer.
days?
They've incited a disturbance in the hallway.
Right. And I have teachers that, and I'm just going to say it, are racist. I have teachers that show favoritism. I have teachers that hate being at work. I've seen teachers that are on drugs or drunk. And now their attitude, every little thing ticks them off. And they just might not like you. And they're just tired of teaching you because you're a disruption. Or maybe you ask so many questions and you don't have any power against what the teacher says if the teacher just doesn't like you. And now you're suspended. How do we expect our kids to succeed in school if they're missing 45 days? I mean, if you miss a week from your job, you're in trouble and can potentially fail at work, right? Could you imagine 45 days? Like, it's just unheard of that we are suspending kids from their education 3 days, 5 days, 45 days, or longer for one thing or two things. I mean, even if a person is in a fight, you can just be expelled for a year and then you have to go to another school. I mean, come on, how do you expect them to succeed? And yes, they should be disciplined. And yes, they need to understand rules and follow them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the alternative is not working. We see it's not working. And what are we doing to fix it?
So, Carlanda, I really respect your lived experience. I know that you spend a lot of time in the schools doing the peacemaker work. But I have to walk your statement back just a bit, because I know how tough it is to be a teacher. And I know the vast majority of teachers are committed to what they're doing. And I truly believe, in partnership with the Buffalo Public Schools, that we can change the culture of the school, that we can have amazing outcomes, because that is our only option. It really is our only option. We have to bring the best out of everybody involved. But I 1000% agree with you that the first thing you do when you have that upset student is you go to them, you show them compassion, you try and encourage them to self-regulate all of that emotion that's overwhelming them. You know, that you try and engage them and guide them through conflict resolution. And that's what our school needs to do. We need to engage with the students in a supportive way. And I know Vicky's about to jump on it.
Well, so what I would say is, I mean, to me, the answer is we have to be the change that we want to see.
There it is. That's the line.
There it is. Listen, if our response is when there's a problem or disagreement or misunderstanding
Security.
or anger or security problem, our answer is you're ejected. You're ejected. Goodbye. Go away. That's our answer. No.
And thankfully, so I can speak from Riverside. Riverside has great, and not just Riverside, a lot of the SROs are actually great security. And you're right, I should say some teachers, because being in Riverside has amazing teachers and amazing staff, as far as, you know, vice principal, principals and things. After doing restorative circles one day out of the week, I'm like, I could never be a teacher and do 8 hours of instruction. It's draining, it's tiring. And, you know, on the flip side of that, with the teachers, they're not just teachers. They're psychiatrists, they're counselors, they're babysitters, they're therapists, you know, they're motivational speakers. Parents, they have multiple roles where they should just be able to show up and teach as an educator, because that's their job. But in this day and age, it's multifaceted roles, and it is a lot dealing with our students. But we, as you say, we have to be the change you want to be, and we all have to be working towards a sound solution.
So we know that for peaceful conflict resolution, we need communication and cooperation. So if there's a suspension going on, that is not communication and that is cooperation. So I think that those, you know, there are simple tools, but they're simple, but they're not well known. So we don't really teach that. It's not something that's included for teachers or in necessarily for lots of adults don't know how to do peaceful conflict resolution. So it's a dismissive kind of a thing. It's like you know, there's aggression, you know, people have, you know, their alert system comes on. So it's fight, flight, or freeze or fawn, and not using the tools that we have for peaceful conflict resolution.
It's hard when you're scared of students, Vicki. It's hard.
Well, there's racism that enacts. There's overwhelmedness here. Just a second. There's overwhelmedness. So people feel they have too much to do, and they're afraid that they're going to lose control of the class. But there are other ways of supporting that peaceful conflict resolution activity. So, you know, restorative or transformative practices and real simple, you know, and heartfelt discussions with authenticity and compassion and listening. So those things have to happen. So that's my thought about the inherent problems with the suspension, because just by its nature, sometimes there might be occasions where somebody really is too disruptive, and there's a reason, but it still has to be paired up with learning. So it doesn't make sense otherwise. So anyway, I want to go to the school to prison pipeline, how it factors in. And so I'm going to say racism is big in there and a lot of other factors. So Sam, if you would.
Yeah, so suspension is like the official entry point to the school to prison pipeline. Research shows that even one suspension dramatically increases the likelihood of failing classes, dropping out, and the likelihood of becoming court involved. Here in Buffalo, exclusionary discipline impacts people of color disproportionately. It impacts students with disabilities disproportionately. It impacts English language learners disproportionately. It impacts students with lower socioeconomic levels, so poor kids, disabled kids, Black and Hispanic kids. It's just not fair. And it's tremendous when you start looking at the intersection. So if you look at somebody who has an IEP and special education services, who's also a person of color, they are 6.5 times more likely to be long-term suspended than a white counterpart with no disability. And that's just not acceptable in 2024. We will never break the cycle of a segregated Buffalo. We will never break the cycle of poverty for African Americans and the East Side if we do not fight for education for every last one of these kids.
Right. Absolutely. You're so right. So, Carlanda, what would you say about how the school to prison, how this feeds the school to prison?
I mean, so I've had young people that I mentored that actually are in prison. And so going to a visit to Alden or Wendy or a holding center, or I knew someone that was in federal prison that I would go and visit. The similarities between prison, detention, and school are just too similar. And that's part of the problem. I mean, even with sometimes how the setup is when you come in, the dark hallways, the dark lighting, the security officers, their security. So just like in prison, you have security. You have a warden. The principal is always viewed like the top person head that when they walk in, oh God, we're in trouble. That's like the warden, and then it's like, the food lunch. It's just the settings, the setup, the small class spaces and
the buildings, the colors.
You're right. The mundane colors, the way, the tone of voice of how teachers and staff could be talking to you, the reiteration of it, the lining up. A lot of it just has too much similarities like prison. So for me, there was a book, Miseducation of a Negro. I believe it's Woodson Carter. And it talked about fourth grade for young African, young Black boys is where they start right there, preparing them for prison. And most of it is through school with the setup. I mean, even with just standing in a line and recognizing you by your name. Well, in prison, you stand in line, you're recognized by a number. So I think we have to, that's why I sort of love like the charter schools and the different schools. And I believe some of BPS has adopted this, especially like McKinley High School and Burgard, where you have a more relaxed atmosphere where kids are free to do more hands-on activities and things, and the culture of learning is more experiential rather than just here's a book, this is what you do, and if you don't, and then how we're just pushing them through when they're actually not learning the material. And we know this because of the learning disabilities that our young people have, and they're going to be in culture shock when they get to college. So if you're not educating a person properly and you're pushing them through and they're not safe, and then, you have kids bringing weapons to school, and you have, where you have to have detectors, but metal detectors from the walk-in, all of these things is producing this culture of not being safe and having to protect yourself personally. And this leads to violent behavior. Well, violent behavior leads to police coming to the school, and then you can be arrested. And then, they're keeping all these reports on you. So, I mean, same thing that's being done in prison. So it's just when you line it up, there's just too many similarities. And we want to break that subconscious visual cycle of what's going on. So that's what I think of it.
Well, there's the high involvement of racism in some of the decision making and some of the times that things are taken to be offensive, right? So that, and I can't help remembering, or thinking about, there's been studies done that, when the U.S. started our school system here, the way they had the desks lined up and all facing the same way, so that the students will not interact with each other. It's just, separating people, right? Where a cooperative classroom, and a different kind of the environment and the culture of the school, if it's for helping each other, more understanding, and not this kind of myopic, straight ahead obedience, impeccable obedience and lack of communication, because what were people being trained to do? To think? No. Parrot back what you're told, to do what you're told, parrot back what you're told, memorize what you're told, and that's all of it. So so all of that, and then with the suspensions, especially when, first of all, when you're kicking people out of school, and then so they're missing the learning, as you say, and then what is the message to them? That they don't count, that they don't care, and then the more they're separated and disassociated from the educational environment, the more they don't want any part of it. They're already too far behind. They can't catch up. And naturally that schism grows wider and wider. And it is very racially oriented.
Right. And then when they go home and they're supposed to be online, most of them don't have a laptop. If the laptop is broken or lost, it can take months or a while for it to get replaced. But even when they go online instructions, sometimes the teachers are not on there to teach it. So, and then you're putting a kid out that's coming to school, and then you expect them to have the discipline at home to log on and do their work. Well, if the parent is at work, they definitely don't have anyone ensuring that they're doing their work. So then they're just out and about. And then now we create this issue of absenteeism. And then if you're out for, they say it takes 16 to 21 days to, have something be a habit or to break a habit. Well, if I'm not in school for 45 days, what do you think is going to happen when I come back? If I've been home watching TV, sleep, parents might take advantage of having watched the kids or run errands, or you're hanging out at your friend's house. Now, after 45 days, you're just supposed to go back to school and just get right back into the groove of working. No, you're already out of the groove of listen to a teacher or somebody talk. So it just, we have to come up. And even in school suspension, I've been a part of that, where they're just sitting inside of a room with no materials, not doing anything, just sitting there. Most of them go to sleep. That's not effective neither. They need to be doing some work or have someone there to teach them and do the restorative circle processes. And I know some of the schools are doing that, but all of them should be doing that.
All of them should be doing that. So Samantha, what would you say in terms of the recent, so there has been some progress, because I want to really congratulate you on the school discipline project, because it's back to, it's not that the kids don't need discipline. Disciple, that word of learning. So it's about teaching and learning. So if you want to talk a little bit about the project and the recent success that you have had.
Yeah, so as a community of organizers, there are many, many people and groups that come together and collaborate. I gotta say, I think that I'm part of at least 4 or 5 different local coalitions. I'm starting to lose track, statewide coalitions. In fact, right before hopping onto this radio program, I just finished up a state call with Solutions Not Suspensions statewide, with more than 130 organizers from all over the state. And we are so close to passing a statewide Solutions Not Suspensions Act. We are 4 state senators away and 5 assembly members away. We are so close, and that would change how discipline works in New York State. It would hold charter schools to the same standards that public schools face with 3214 in education law, section 3214, requiring that hearings are held within 5 days rather than letting kids malinger 10 days before deciding if they should be suspended for a longer period. But locally, we've worked with PPG and NYCLU and a number of other organizations, Legal Aid Bureau Buffalo and Buffalo Public Schools, to participate in an ad hoc committee that looked at suspensions. And BPS had changed their policies. Finally, they've changed their policies where they are going to refrain from suspending pre-K through third grade. And this is a small implementation of solutions, not suspensions, just a piece of it. But we've seen that it works. New York City did it. Syracuse did it. Ithaca's done it, and it does work. So we want to see more of our local communities endeavoring to allow children, especially these younger pre-K through third graders, to learn to read, so that when they are taking their first state tests in third grade, they're able to read. They're able to do math, we'll give them the skills that they need so that they can learn those coping, self-regulation mechanisms. We need our teachers to guide them through conflict resolution and to search out what the underlying problems are so that we can, if special education services are needed, let's provide them.
Wow. Congratulations on that. I'm so happy to hear.
It's so wonderful. Yay. Yeah, go ahead. So go on. What would you add to that, Carlanda?
I'm just excited to hear that because I think the younger, if we can get to the younger kids and instill these practices in them, then they will teach it and they will lead the actual change that's necessary. I think we have to just keep at it, keep educating people. And I would like to see more parental involvement because I'm a person that believes discipline starts at home. I don't want us to get so target focused on the schools that we don't put the parent in that element because this is your child. They should come to school already with a sense of order and there to know they're in a learning environment and they're excited about learning. And if they're not being taught at home, there's no structure at home, or they might be growing up in a violent household, they're soaking up what they see, right? Children at that age are a sponge. So if they come to school and they don't like something, then they hit, then yeah, we got to work on that and teach them better. I'm all about teaching students to be critical thinkers. I tell my youth all the time, my main goal is for you to learn something every day and to be a critical thinker. Because if you don't know how to think and process things, then that's a problem, right? Because then you're relying on your emotions. And a lot of times, what I see is people acting out of emotions. Adults act out of emotions. You don't like when somebody says something to you. You don't like the way they look at you. You don't like them. And I'm like, it's fine. Guess what? Everybody is not going to like you, nor do everybody have to like you. It's your individual right. But what you should do is respect every person, right? And if somebody says something to you, that don't mean you have to respond and escalate it. You can be a critical thinker, process, and ask a person, well, why do you feel that way? And agree to disagree, right? So critical thinking. But if we're not teaching critical thinking skills, they're not getting it at home, they're not getting it at school. Where are they supposed to get it?
Right.
See?
And also the conflict resolution skills also. That's the same thing. Right. So that actually, it makes me think of our first Peace Jam group and their global call to action project with your kiddos very highly involved. Their choice of global call to action project was to do peaceful conflict resolution with younger kids. That's
okay. I'm like, Vicki about to have me remember something from over 15 years ago. Yolanda's 28.
It was so excellent. But anyway, and the other thing that you're making me think of is something that I learned about in grad school that we've talked about, but it really would be so helpful in this connection, which is community-based family support program.
Yes. Yeah.
Often centered in a school. It doesn't have to be, but here's the school, wonderful building. We put some money into our schools, but then, then there's after-school programs, but then it's shut down, and then it's not used. Now we have Saturday academies. That's great.
Yes. Bennett has, but most of the schools do have the parent centers that are there as a resource for parents. MVP, we meet on Mondays at I should know the time, but I'm gonna say Mondays 5:30 to 7 at Bennett's, and Wednesdays at Lafayette High School. So that is a curriculum, utilizing the 40 developmental assets as a support to parents to come, and you can bring your kids. We have food, they have activities and things, and the parents for the little kids. 5:30 to 7. It goes on for about 8 weeks, and don't quote me. Go to joinmvp.org to get the exact date and times, because I be doing program, but we've been doing that for a couple of years now. But the goal was to use the parent centers so parents know that they have a resource at the school. East High School has a parent center. Bennett has an amazing one. Burgard, I believe, has it. Lafayette. So I'm pretty sure majority of the schools do. But they also have cooking classes. They do fitness classes, dance workshops, all kinds of things as a resource at the school, and they promote it. Now, I don't know how well attended it is, but a lot of times parents don't come out. So this is where I say we have to start at home. Parents need to be actively hands-on involved with their children, no matter what their age is. You should be. I talk to my daughter every day, and she's 28. You have to be hands-on because it's your child.
So so there's been some progress towards that, but what that is just really opening up the school even more to community people to offer classes. Some of them, like you said, there are some that's going on. The parent centers are improvement, so it's movement in that direction. But that learning, environment and making it for the whole family and the whole community, and using the assets of the community to foster that is really important. Would be such a way of furthering all of it. So when we think about, so that's one of the things I'm thinking of when we're talking about some of the successes and some of the ways that we can continue that success. But I want to ask you, Sam, we'll go around and this in that talking circle format of each one of us taking a turn to talk about where the failures are lying, especially around implementation, et cetera. So,
yeah. So, as organizers, we want to trumpet when we get the hint of a win, right? But we know that a policy on paper means nothing if it doesn't leave that paper and make it into the classroom and the culture. All right? What we need is implementation with fidelity. From the hearts of the people that are involved. It needs to mean something to them. They have to see that they're going to get something out of the implementation. Meaning, if they take the time to teach a kid, how to self-regulate their emotions, they have to realize that they're going to have fewer outbursts, fewer interruptions, that they'll have a stronger learning environment, but sometimes there's just so many pressures in the classroom. There may not be the supports from the administration to actually commit to doing those daily morning circles with the check-ins in a meaningful way. There may not be the school safety team counselor who's actually available. Maybe somebody called out. Maybe they're short-staffed. There's different stressors inside the school system that, me as an outsider, I might not see. I know Carlanda would see a lot more of it and might be able to dive deeper into that. But we need to see true implementation. That means training for staff. That means support for students and mentoring for students and both support and mentoring for students and parents. Let's take it there, since we've had so much conversation about parents. But ultimately, we want to see district level oversight coming from a place of creating support and accountability, not necessarily punishment for I want to say administrators of the buildings, but we're talking about so many different levels of administration, so I feel like I'm going to get confused with all of these administrators involved. But there's different levels, from that central administration down to the building level administration. And we want to see that those building level administrators are supported in transforming the culture rather than penalized and not given the proper supports and training so that they can have the real implementation that we need. Because just like we said with kids, there's going to be hiccups along the way. We know that as we try and change and transform our system of education, our administrators, our teachers, they're not going to do it perfectly. But we have to be there with the same grace and support that we demand for the students. We need to offer to the teachers as well, with the trainings, with financial resources, which is why solutions, not suspensions, is so important, because it comes along with $50 million. So we need to actually fund these mandates. We can't just say, hey, go make the world great. Oh, and by the way, figure out how you're going to fund that.
Right. No, you're so right. Carlanda?
The failures, I definitely agree that failures is checks and balances. Even though we have a school of conduct, we don't know what schools are actually following it. We don't praise the schools that are following it. Who is the person that's supposed to do this? There's no one that's really coming in to see what's going on with the suspensions, as far as if the school is following it or not. So I definitely agree with the lack of oversight to make sure that it is being implemented. Other than that, I think, just like she said, support. I think this is an overwhelming issue. It's not like someone might have a issue once a week. I think we find that it's weekly at multiple schools on multiple levels where problems are occurring. And of course, the greater good would be just implementing what works. I think we overcomplicate things. I think it should be simplified, because the school code of conduct and all of the policies, and I was a part of the people that were putting that together. I mean, it was like a whole book of things where, I mean, it's just this simple stuff, right? Here are the rules, follow them. And if not, then we're going to talk and figure out why you're not following the rules. And then we need to bring your parent involved. Just simple concepts that we have gotten away from that worked all of our lives. It worked for us. It worked for me. It worked for you. Why is it that we think it doesn't work now? So getting back to the basics, I think we failed at that. I think we've overcomplicated basic things that can be resolved. And I think parents are a huge part of the problem there, where we have failed to make sure that parents are welcomed into the school, and that connection between parent and teacher, that I feel like has been sort of broken, to where it's more like a us and them. I mean, us versus them, instead of we working together for the sake of the child.
I think that's so important, and it's really symptomatic. So when you're broadening it out to that, and the parents and the relationships, I want to say it's also the society. So what are we, what do we see around us? What do we hear on the media, any kind of media?
Violence.
The television or the social media or the newspapers or wherever, whatever, what are we getting exposed to as ideas and ways to handle things? And when they're all dysfunctional, then you just feel like, oh yeah, I'll go that way. That becomes the prevalent thing, instead of going the opposite way, where the prevalent thing becomes that healthy nurturing, listening. I used to simplify peaceful conflict resolution into the communication and cooperation, right? Or truth and love, just like that, the principles and the spirit. So we have principles that will help us. And I mean, of course, you could say the person in charge of the building, but also those principles of, telling the truth, listening more, caring, authenticity, humility, all those principles that we want to emulate, and we want to try and emulate them imperfectly. It will be imperfectly. I think back to the code of conduct when, I was working on it. And I remember when I first looked at it, within the first 2 pages, they talked about what would happen if the police, you remember this?
Yeah.
If they had to pick up your child in the school, right? What would they do, or what wouldn't they do? It's like within the first 2 pages, you think that needs to be mentioned? It's that common or something. It was so crazy. And then we got them back in 2010 was when they first put restorative justice into the code of conduct. But people are not believing in it or using it.
Right.
And it's not a mysterious thing. Yes, there's lots of training, but those 3 questions, right? Just what happened, what was the damage done, how can damage be repaired, and including all the affected people, which includes the community. That's simple. That's not complicated.
Right. And you don't have to use it if there's no one coming to you saying, hey, why aren't you using it? And we're going to hold you accountable for not using it. So if I could just be a school and not do it, and I'm not going to have any fallback, nothing's going to happen to me for not following the policy, well, then now I can get accustomed to not doing it.
So we're almost out of time now. So I just want to ask you both very briefly, what's your best advice to people of how to get more involved and learn more and get more involved? So just a minute from each of you on that. Sam?
I need more than a minute.
Oh.
If you're interested in getting involved, email me, swhite@wnyLC.net. We have all sorts of clinics that we do in the community. We are trying to do lobby days in Albany. Solutions, Not Suspensions, New York is another great resource that you can tap into and sign up. There's also really simple activities like reaching out to your state senator and your state assembly member and letting them know that you do support Solutions, Not Suspensions, that you do want children to receive their education. And I really appreciate the invite to participate. It's always wonderful to be here on the Peace Center radio show.
Well, we'd love to have you. Friend of the show, sister of the show, Carlanda.
And likewise, I feel the exact same way. Always good to be amongst my sisters to have a good conversation, right? First and foremost, I'm going to say join MVP.org. Get involved with an organization that is actually doing the real work to make effective change. I want to say be a most valuable parent. Like, it starts at home. Take the time to talk to your child every single day. When they walk in, how was school? What did you learn today? How are you feeling? 3 basic questions that I did every day with my child. How was school today? What did you learn? How are you feeling? And I don't know, and nothing was not acceptable as an answer. You're somewhere 8 hours, you should be able to tell me what you learned. Be hands-on, active, check their social media, pay attention to them, ask who their friends are, where their friends live, talk to their friends' parents, and get active in the school. Go to the school, ask to talk to the teachers, take advantage of the PTO. And when their report cards come and parent-teacher conference, get to be familiar with the people that have your school for hours in a day in that environment so that you can find out. Be a hands-on active parent. Put your kids in sports. Get them involved. Find out what their path is, because the more love and hands-on activities that we have and happy children, the less problems we have in a school environment. And once again, join MVP.org.
Right. Thank you. Those are all such great ways. And I want to say, I mean, there's all kinds of support for that. I'm going to say that the Western New York Peace Center is totally supportive, and, we can get as involved as possible. So think of us when you're putting together different things, both, at every level, really, at every level. There's so many levels where people could be helping, to spread the word and spread that culture of peace. I want to say both of you do that. I know you do. I know you do.
And you.
I know you. So, I want to say all the gratitude of all these years of me seeing you both, how hard you work and how with authenticity, with moral integrity, with truth and love. And I want to say I'm so grateful to you both for all your work, for being on the show. And this is Talking Peace. And together we've been talking peace in truth and love.
That's right. We do it. We do it.
Yeah, so that's it. So that was a great show. Very great show. Covered a lot of ground.
I see. We still have a bit of